right, so Michele is with us today. Um, Thanks for accepting the invite. I was intrigued by a number of your posts mostly on LinkedIn. I think we follow each other, and just wanted to, as you know, I'm trying to run this channel with, hosting talented, prominent people in our profession. The idea is that we are looking for ways to make some kind of a breakthrough because our profession and our industry is a pretty not so mature state, I would say, overall, at least from what I'm seeing out in the field when I get um, engaged in helping teams. And I know you have a lot to bring to this discussion. So why don't we start with you? Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what your current focus is.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for the invite, by the way. I mean, I really always appreciate your takes on LinkedIn as well, and I
Thank you.
follow you as you mentioned, right? I mean, once again, what about me? I have about 15-year experience, so not too many compared to other people, like Brian as an example, or yourself and others. I worked predominantly in London, so I spent a couple of years of my career in Rome, but then I moved on fairly quickly. I've been here a while, and I work across a broad range of industries. I work from, I don't know, companies that operated in the Internet of Things space to banking, financial services, gaming, gambling, and the likes, and probably quite a few that I'm not going to mention. And I also like work for tiny startups of two, for colossal companies like Meta or JP Morgan, and pretty much anywhere in between. So I've seen a lot of stuff. And, I agree with your take that the industry could probably use a little bit of help. So,
Yeah.
nice initiative. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. So let's talk, maybe jump right into the hottest topic right now. It's impossible to open any tech media, and 95% is AI. AI everywhere. And you have the range from people who really say, wow, I'm blown away, to people saying this is the horrible thing, the worst thing ever that happened, and anything in between. And so I just want to maybe start with quickly commenting or asking you to explain your intriguing idea that now that we have this tool that can speed up the
Uh-huh.
prototyping, you are thinking about why don't we do it in parallel? Split the
Hmm.
team who are like exploring the market with prototyping, and then on the other hand, have the team who are doing like proper engineering. Slow and steady wins the race, not
Uh-huh.
rushing, not. So can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm really intrigued by that. I think it has legs. It can hold water, but we need to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I was thinking about it like yesterday, I believe, or this morning. It's kind of like when I worked in startups, and once again, I did quite a few. There's usually always like a crazy rush in the beginning where people go like, "Hey, we don't have money. We're running out of cash. We need to like, I don't know, entail the investors." And therefore the focus is a lot on like either reading, trying stuff, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And normally, in the startups that do it well, you do this to validate your assumptions. You're getting feedback about the model that you put up. A lot of startups just try stuff to see how it goes, but then fundamentally it can take a long while, and then like it builds. I don't even want to call it technical debt because I mean I'm a fan of the term, but I think it's very specific. What I'm going to call it is design gap, where you basically build your systems and they kind of work for the use case that you got in front of you, but then fundamentally they were never designed and they're not meant to be used in production or at scale and so on, right? And then some companies, unfortunately, they stop before getting any traction or success, but quite a few others, they do get commercial success and they eventually find product market fit. At which point, we all read right the lean startup and this idea that we should like eventually like I don't know rebuild our prototypes before we scale out. But from my experience, it's extremely rare, even if it's a good idea. And people just go like, "Hey, we got this thing, we're paid for it, we absolutely cannot stop and redo stuff," and so they go ahead, right? And then what you end up seeing is that in a lot of cases, the amount of slowdown that you get from the code base is crazy. And everything you're trying to do is risky and it takes forever and customers are unhappy. And, startups compete on speed. And so, the speed of feedback is really important. And so if you slow down, it's not a good thing. And a lot of companies ended up going bust because they cannot keep up. Now, I wonder whether with AI, you're not really forced to compromise during the first phase. You can say, hey, I'm gonna try to generate with AI and put together like prototypes to get validation and go to the market really quickly and iterate and everything that's good about that. But hopefully, because these tools accelerated so much, I can keep a part of my capacity to actually start doing foundational work, which is typically not product specific. It's how you manage, sessions or authentication or notifications. It's absolutely nothing to do with the product itself.
Okay, and I need to apologize because I did comment on your post. I kind of jumped the gun, and then I re, kind of retract my. Like, I had something else on my mind, but when you explained, then I thought, oh wait a minute, this is actually something else. And so thanks for explaining. So basically, this premise is based on the idea that we are using services that are provided by some third party corporation or organization. Now, and that's how it's been since the day one. If we go back to early our history, I think it's important to understand the history of our profession. It started by being the extremely scarce and expensive type
Uh,
of service, the automation using computers. They were super, only military and governments and large corporations could afford them. And then, fast forward today, we have more power in our pocket than they ever. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I'm more thinking about the scales tipping towards individual consumers, or instead of us always being beholden or dependent on some big corporation, some Facebook or Amazon or somebody who's going to automate things for us. This
uh,
is where I see potentially breakthrough with AI. And 2.5 years ago, I published an article where I'm discussing this turning of the tables. But
uh,
I'm thinking there may be, we are used to or conditioned by what I call the evergreen apps. So you have your Excel
uh,
spreadsheet, it's 30 years old or whatever, it's evergreen, and we depend on it. Now, I'm thinking maybe there's in the future, thanks to the AI, maybe there's coming the time where we start seeing single-use apps. So
uh,
instead of me depending on some startup coming up with some automation, I can, in my bedroom, talk to AI and say, okay, can you make this automation for me? And its lifespan may be very limited, a couple of days, and then I don't need it anymore. So in that regard, because right now with green apps, like you say, it's not enough that it functions to the expectations. It's not enough that it
uh,
covers the behavior. It has to be structured. It has to be well engineered because it's supposed to live for years, and that's technical debt, and then you're building a house of cards, and the risk going down. But if that's not supposed to have longevity, then
uh,
do we really care about the quality structure? If it functions as expected and it's going to function for a few days, then I don't care how AI called it up. Maybe it's not a mess, but it works, right? And this week it's gone. It disappears. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I think the industry will eventually get in that direction. I think like some of the things that Elon Musk were also talking about, which is essentially like this idea of replacing client apps with AI because it will generate the user interface for you on the fly.
Yeah.
Perhaps you don't even need a code base, even if it's for a day or two, right? So I kind of think it makes sense. And this is a part of programming. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, depends who you ask, but I think like the long tail of companies that will need to maintain code bases not. entirely gonna go away, because fundamentally when you go into like large scale integrations, it becomes it, so let me put it this way: if it's like purely a software problem, yes. In a lot of cases, companies that have a competitive advantage are very rarely just about software, so it becomes a lot harder. Yeah.
Right, right.
But for personal use cases, yes, I think it will eventually, hopefully, happen.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about that for almost a
Hmm.
decade, and some of my thinking I see now is kind of starting to get materialized, which is uh, the slogan. When I started my company in 2016, my slogan was, "The internet is programmable information.
Uh-huh.
Bots are programmable workforce."
Uh-huh.
So we've reached a point where yes, we can use the web, the internet, and we can, you know, deal with our information sorting and filtering and
Uh-huh.
whatnot, summarizing, but there is no there is no functionality. We depend on these large organizations to provide us with automated functionality. But now with sort of AI agents, you know,
Uh-huh.
we're seeing almost proliferation of workforce.
Uh-huh.
And in the old days, if you were wealthy, you're rich, then you will have your staff, you will have your
Mhm.
chauffeur, you will have your gardener, your everything. The rest of us, we depend on, you know, public services. But with this AI and robotics, maybe we're looking into affordability. So now every one of us can hire and train our own workforce.
Yeah, I
You know,
mean,
that's the age of abundance, kind of,
uh-huh.
right? In that regard, any evergreen applications I'm using, to me, I feel that they are not loyal to me. They're loyal to their board of directors or the investors. But I need my dream about technology and software is that it should be loyal to me.
Uh-huh.
I should be first and foremost serving me, my needs, and
Uh-huh.
learning about me. And every individual case is unique. You cannot paint with a broad brush, which is right now we're in this situation where you and I are using the same kind of evergreen apps, and they don't care about us, right? They're reporting back to their bosses, kind of
Yeah.
spying on us,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's where I want to take the discussion in that direction. Like I call these evergreen apps concierge apps. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, you have some event, you go, you approach the concierge, that they will tell you what you need
Uh-huh.
to know. But then I approach them, they give me the exact same answer, and they don't remember me or they don't care about me. I'm thinking more about what I call the butler apps, with
Uh-huh.
your own butler, and it learns your foibles, your
Uh-huh.
habits, and you can train it. And the idea is that not only is it loyal to you, but it's non-intrusive.
Uh-huh.
It knows when not to interrupt, right? And knows when to interrupt, etc.
Uh-huh.
So, do you have any thoughts around that, or should we move to
Yeah,
another
yeah. I
topic?
mean, I think once again, I think ideally the industry will get there, right? I think like there are a few things. So first of all, a big use case for AI in general would be the digital personal assistant, as you said, right? Yeah, that would be fantastic. And so, as an example, if I plan to go with my family, I don't know, at a seaside location, I want to book a restaurant. This thing should know our taste about restaurants and what we like or don't like, and then take care of it. I don't wanna, having to mediate the whole thing in an ideal world, right? And on the other end, as you said, there's a lot of space for personalization. So even if I'm trying to use an app for, I don't know, as a job board, I want to see in it, I want to use it in a way that's specific to me, as you said, right? And these technologies, they could allow certain use cases like this. Like as an example, without going too much in the details because I can't, but where I work right now, we do generate UI forms on the fly based on chat boxes, right? And so there's not like a form anymore, but it gives you a structured way of entering information as part of a conversation with an LLM, which is pretty neat. Now, obviously, a baby step. The I think like in terms of like obstacles to getting this vision in place. I think I can think of a few things. And as an example, the AI glasses that Meta's is working on and they sell is definitely pushing that vision. For as an example, because he has a context of what you do and what you see, he can get information about you and then essentially like try to act as a personal assistant. The limitations are there's a bandwidth problem because transmitting these massive amounts of information back and forth is a problem. There's key like a battery problem. So you can do it and it works really well, but you cannot keep it up 24 hours. The other thing, which is as you said, right? So ideally, these butler apps should serve you as opposed to some corporations at their board. Well, the problem is this stuff takes a lot of compute to run, a lot of money to develop, and fundamentally, I think like that running centralized models will always somewhat put the body in the interest, ahead of the individual. Now, whether at some point these models will become good enough to run locally, who knows? But yes.
Yeah, now we're touching upon the area that's called edge computing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a growing area. And just yesterday, I connected with a fellow on LinkedIn who claims that he has patented, I don't know if you read that, he has patented a solution. And I don't know much about it because I didn't have the chance. But it's intriguing because he says it replaces memory with cognition. And
Mm-hmm.
so rather than having this, like you said, massive ever growing memory, which is less power hungry, storage hungry, energy hungry, his patent distills the, let's say you have burned a couple million tokens, right? And it's a big, massive cloud of data. His patent claims to rip through that, distills it, but not summarize it. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference between summarizing it, distilling it by retaining the context and the emotional charge of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And furthermore, I forgot how he calls it, there is an acronym. Furthermore, this one is pluggable into any other LLM. So even though, let's say you were doing this from ChatGPT and you summarize or distill your whatever happened, you can turn around, plug it into Gemini, and it will pick it up as if the whole thing happened on that platform. So that to me is intriguing because he claims that it drastically lowers the footprint. And the thing I like about that, and the thing I like about the web, is it reminds me the promise of the web that Facebook and other big tech violate is it's bookmarkable and forwardable.
Uh-huh.
Now, when I go to Facebook, I cannot bookmark and forward some content that some.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this approach has potentially the ability to allow me to bookmark some important conversation, forward it to whatever I think is appropriate, and keep growing, keep learning.
Uh-huh.
So that's one potential thing, like with this kind of crunching down
Mm-hmm.
the footprint that can maybe enable edge computing to arrive earlier than, like you say, if it's current state of technology, just
Uh-huh.
you need to have the cloud, right? But ideally, you should be having your butler in your pocket without being even connected to the cloud,
Uh-huh.
so that indeed it is not spying when you're sharing. It's yours, right? In your employ.
Yeah.
So this sounds like science fiction, but I've been dreaming about these things for more than 10 years, and still here, right? But to your point, I remember I was invited. There was that first chatbot conference in 2016 in Vienna. I was invited there, and I did my presentation. And I met locals. I met people, businesses who were interested. And one use case, for example, there was an insurance company who the owner told me like the biggest problem in life is to if you're applying online for the insurance, whatever it is, life insurance or whatever, there's a very copious form that you have to fill out. And they are observing that a lot of people can bail out
Yeah.
after even not going halfway through it, like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So even back then, the idea is like, why don't we have a chatbot that would like
Uh-huh.
converse and easy peasy. I collected everything and you're done. So even back 9 years ago, it was the same kind of, hey, how can we, like you say, make it more bureaucratic and faceless and whatnot? So maybe that's what you were referring to comment on that.
I mean, there's definitely an element of chat and even verbal, especially when it bridges into voice. In a lot of cases, like it really simplifies interactions, as you said, right? Keeps users engaged. I think in general, it's brilliant. As you said, it started a few years ago. It's not necessarily a today thing. I think like a lot of companies, Meta and others, do really well in it. I think like one of the challenges I see is that there's a big movement to try and replace a lot of user interfaces with chat boxes. And I personally don't know if it's in the right direction because in a lot of cases, you can kind of quickly. So, first of all, if I land on a chat box, I have no idea the kind of things I could ask.
Yeah,
So in general, visual information gives me a lot of things straight away, right? Where I can
correct.
say, what's this about? Where do I click to do what? And sometimes people think, yes, we're still using the mouse. It's been like some years, but it is a very effective thing. And for other things, yes, absolutely. So chat boxes can have a lot of utility. But like once again, to me, one of the really interesting aspects is, and I don't know if AI as it is today will get us there. Like as you said, right? I see the web is essentially around information today, and I would wish for the web to become about behavior and about data sharing protocols. Whereas at the moment, as an example, if I move, right, and I relocate to another neighborhood, I want to see, hey, what's around me, right? I want to know, hey, who has a butcher? Do I have a fishmonger or whatever? And now, do they work? And what time are they open? And do they have this specific ingredient I'm looking for? I have to do a lot of work where I need to like browse things, figure things out, and go to different websites where they don't expose actions with semantics. Where whether it's an AI or a person that could interpret them and use them is a different story. And ideally an AI should do it. But the question is, at the moment, it's not works, and it would be great if it was driven by behavior, right? Where you could just interact with the web, not in terms of like, hey, let me fetch the phone number to call a restaurant, but let me get in touch with them automatically to make a booking, right? Because that's what I want to do. I in an ideal world, I don't want to know that there's a telephone in between. Right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's brilliant. And to turn the other way around, and this is something that I've been working with. I started working almost 20 years ago with some friends, where I noticed that, like you say, the walled gardens. So our, online platforms have turned into walled gardens. So you're here over here on Facebook, over there you're on Twitter, and blah blah blah, but LinkedIn. But as you're moving between those platforms, you always start afresh. But
Mm-hmm.
but in real life, if you're moving from Rome to London, you bring your reputation with you, and it's
Connect. Yeah.
relatively easy to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your reputation, your hard work does not get lost. You work hard in Rome. Now in London, it's like, okay, let's start from zero. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were talking about what can we do to create online reputation,
Mm-hmm.
so that Mikel, wherever you go, it's easy to
Mm-hmm.
plug in, and your previous work is readily available. People can check it out. People know who you are, what you're all about. And we could not find the way to do it because it has to be vendor neutral. That
Mm-hmm.
that reputation should not be owned by some big tech.
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age, it seems to very difficult to avoid the big tech. We are owned. So do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously that would be a great direction forward. I think like let me put it this way: there are two parts of this. There is a part which is decentralization and federation,
Mhm.
where essentially, and there are some. protocols, whether it's Mastodon or Nostr, or there are, where essentially they're trying to work a little bit like the World Wide Web was supposed to work, where there are decentralized servers and they interact peer to peer. That's a different story. You can do that. The downside is that it's inconvenient, and a lot of people don't like inconvenience in general. It doesn't like take over very well. So that's the side. The other side of it is that information in itself, especially these days, cannot be trusted, right? And therefore, people don't trust it. So, as an example, I don't know, if I say on LinkedIn that I work for this amazing company, well, people don't take it at face value, right?
Yeah.
And and they shouldn't. And the
Yeah.
point is, I think that there's an element of, um, and I think Bitcoin and blockchain, they try to do it in the wrong way, because they try to basically like replace trust with cryptography. And I think that instead, the way this could work is that fundamentally we could use cryptography to attest statements made by individuals or organizations. So, as an example, if I say that I know you, and if I say that I can vouch for your, I don't know, understanding of technology, somebody that trusts me get a degree of trust in you because of this statement, right? Now, in order for this to work, you need basically like federated identity, which can also work through cryptographic attestation. It can be federated, and you do need the ability to say, "Hey, I'm stating this." Obviously, you don't want to do it in plain English, so you want something like semantics and registries of statements and versioning and so on. And then you need like cryptographic attestation, standard, nothing particularly complicated. But like basically, the idea becomes that if we're thinking blockchain or Bitcoin, well, if you lose your keys, you're fundamentally on your own. If you're talking about trust-based protocol, well, if, I don't know, the government of the United Kingdom issues me a new password or a new key, as long as that thing comes with their signature and is attested by numerous people, there's a degree of trust that comes with it. And so, as an example, when I present this passport to, I don't know, somebody in France, I might say, hey, this is actually verified, against the public signature of the United Kingdom, so I trust it to an extent. Right? And I think it's a very different approach, even if the ingredients are roughly the same.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up. Um, you know, blockchain is basically what they call the Internet of Values,
Mm-hmm.
where allegedly information cannot be tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, it's strong. It's a strong proposition. Like you say, whether it can be trusted is another issue, but at least you know that piece of information cannot be messed with and doctored and altered, which is a brilliant thing because
Mm-hmm.
without that, even in physical world, you can tamper with documents, you can doctor everything, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, so yeah, you bring a really good point, and thank you for explaining that. I wasn't that articulate on that. Um, but nevertheless, we should be able. I mean, on the other hand, we don't want to be kind of dipping into or dropping into totalitarian a la China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, yes, they have a much more integrated online experience, but it's all owned by the government that is unalterable and it's not challengeable, and that's bad. That's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it works beautiful if you are willing to swallow the nightmare of totalitarian. We cannot afford that here
Mm-hmm.
in the West. So we need to work on finding, like you say, a trustworthy source,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a big challenge.
I don't think I don't think, so as an example, in this vision that I was talking about, I don't think that the whole thing would be controlled by the United Kingdom
Yeah, yeah,
or by anyone, by government. It's mostly like they would be a party.
yeah,
Now, like it or not, if you're gonna have a physical document, the document is gonna be issued by an agency or a government, and they would attest it like anybody else. Now, I could issue something. Now, depending on who trusts me and who puts value in my issuance of that document, I might act as a, you know, as another government agency. Obviously, it wouldn't make any sense, right? But what I'm trying to get is in this case, it would be absolutely decentralized and federated. Like a government wouldn't have any hold of it apart from its own reputation because people decide to give it value.
Yeah, exactly. But still like today, okay, my one of my favorite people that I follow is Kent Beck. I'm sure you also
Hmm.
appreciate Kent Beck, and
Hmm.
he's amazing, and he's everywhere, right? I like he's in Substack. Anywhere you go, there's Kent Beck. So you and I know if we see, let's say there's a new platform, Blue Sky, you go there, Kent Beck, but other people don't.
Hmm.
That's sad because his presence on Blue Sky, somebody joins Blue Sky, he doesn't know who Ken Beck is, even though he's a budding software engineer. It would be nice if he had this kind of online reputation that
Hmm.
puts him in some kind of a proper space where he actually what he deserves, so that people immediately know, okay, this guy is one of the people to I should really pay attention
And I guess, as I was saying, I think the only way this would make sense, I mean, maybe the only way is a strong word because what do I know? But the only way I see
to.
where this could make sense if this comes as trusted appreciation from people that a person that wouldn't know can back happens to know, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
otherwise you would have to trust a company or a
exactly.
party of some sort that say here are the top three people in this field. Yeah.
But suppose there is a consortium or there's a vendor neutral. I'm now daydreaming. Some platform which is called onlinereputation.org. And now you and I will go and vouch for Ken Beck, and other people will vouch for him. So wherever he goes, he can pull from that like
Mhm.
a little status and say, this guy, uh, it's not politically slanted, it's not economically
Mhm.
slanted. It's just like his peers think this guy's bee's knees. And so he can immediately make an impact wherever he goes. I'm using him as an
Yeah.
example. I don't want him to hiccup too much. But, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And it's a challenge to make it vetted, publicly vetted, because there's always this kind of, okay, well, you guys, we think we may have a hidden agenda there, right? Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, it still remains to be pie in the sky, but I think that's what's sorely missing from our online experience is this kind of frustration where you did so much good work and then you move somewhere else and you lose all
Yeah.
of that. So anyway, we once
Reviews,
go ahead, please.
reviews. I mean, they would extend more than just people's reputation. Like as an example, restaurant reviews these days are borderline useless.
Yeah,
But I know some people which I enjoy eating with, and I know what they like, and I know that if they like something, I tend to like it as well. And so the point is, if I could say, hey, this is a real review from this person that I happen to know on a restaurant, that carries a lot more weight. And I think, like, to an extent, like as an example, fashion brands were trying to achieve this with influencers, and then this influencer became, I don't know, they lost their ability to be personable, especially the famous ones, and now they're going back to these micro influencers, which happen to be really popular within a city or within a neighborhood, and those actually tend to move quite a bit of preference with their reviews.
but on the flip side, it's corruptible, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you can buy so long as you can easily buy
Well,
reputation.
you can buy, but as an example, if I have this guy called Simon that I happen to know and he lives next to me in London, that's harder to buy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, interesting. So, do you mind if we go back a little bit to technical
Hmm.
side?
Sure.
So I spent decades of my career learning, trying to learn how to um, structure my code properly. And
Mm.
this was the biggest effort.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, learning how to refactor,
Mm-hmm.
bottom line. But now, with AI and the things we talked about, I'm starting to question whether is that is as important as I thought it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can, when experimenting with AI, I can see that you can guide it towards making things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't even check the how it how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know this is very risky. However, in my personal approach, I find that if I, because I'm a big proponent of TDD. I like TDD, and I'm sure you also do. And I find that if I, instead of asking it, giving it a prompt, etc., if I just give it a micro test
Mm-hmm.
and insist that it doesn't do anything until the test passes, then that kind of cadence is sometimes kind of good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I find myself like, why would I even bother with all this accumulated knowledge about going in and refactoring and all that when things are rolling and kind of, I'm more and more now focused on expected behavior, on
Mm-hmm.
expected functionality, and leave it more to the machines to figure out how it is going to all fit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so these are early days, and I'm not jumping to any conclusions, but I just find myself in this kind of soul searching, like, well, should I? What do you have any comment on that? What do you have any similar experiences?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at work we do use these tools quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think so. First of all, indeed, they are useful, they are powerful to an extent. I think like there are several thoughts in my mind. I'm trying to. I'll do a brief overview, and then maybe we can chat more about it. So one is fundamentally writing good tests, especially like driving incremental implementation through tests, takes a lot of skill. Now, it's not a thing where you can take somebody fresh of college or without any education in software development and they'll be able to do it, AI or not.
Yeah,
So that's the
of
one thing.
course. Yeah.
The second thing is, in general, and these are long discussions, I don't know if we want to have it now or at some other point, but in general, I always find that writing the actual implementation is essentially trivial.
Yeah.
Now, this has two, so I tend to do two kinds of work, right? There is the I'm doing my own stuff for fun, and so that typically is either I don't know, a kata of some sort, shopping cart or whatever. So once again, the implementation is trivial. I'm all about structure. Or I'm building, I don't know, an HTTP server for fun, where the implementation is not trivial, but there I'm learning. I'm not doing software development professionally. And so yes, the AI might help. That's a different story. When I'm at work, typically the
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And again, the question is, with AI, sorry, with the power of AI,
Hmm.
are we still in a position where we need to collaborate with others, or is it a one-man band with AI agents, the new team? That's
Hmm.
another question, right? And then how do
Hmm.
we collaborate with the team of agents? That's another question.
Hmm.
But overall, one thing I like about TDD, personally, and this may not apply to you and others, is I'm very bad at designing software. But
Hmm.
that's my Achilles heel. I don't know how to do it. But I discovered if I'm doing TDD, then there's a harness, that there's some kind of a constraint that is forcing me to, will, like it or not, I need to come up with a better design. If I don't, then all of a sudden
Hmm.
I hit the wall and I realize I cannot write the next text.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
that's what I found value in that, right? But now, when I'm working with AI, I still haven't tried that. This is an experimental phase. Can AI also be
Hmm.
brought into that tight spot
Hmm.
where it realizes that, oh, I cannot write the new test, therefore I need to go back and rethink my approach. That is a curious thing I'm curious about. I don't know if you experienced that, where you put it in a tight spot and it's like, oh, wait a minute.
So I think the problem is not much. I mean, first of all, yes, TDD is brilliant about this, and the reason why, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar, but like the reason why is because you're experiencing changing your own software design,
Yeah,
right? And so if it's a bad design, we resist the change and you feel the pain, right? And also you experience using your software as a consumer,
yeah.
right? Because you're writing the test that actually uses it as well. And so, if it's not meant to be used properly because it's poorly crafted, you will feel the pain. Now, the problem is that fundamentally, and this is my personal thing, my personal idea, because AI has an almost instant execution for everything, it doesn't feel pain in the sense.
Yeah.
And the problem is, there's never a circumstance where you wouldn't be able to write the next test. You wouldn't be able to write the next test in a way that's not painful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where TD kicks in as like, hey, wait a minute, if I'm feeling so much pain, let me make the change easy before I make the easy change, to quote Kent, right? The problem is because these tools don't feel pain, and you can, and that's why certain things are hard to mitigate, right? And that's as an example why I don't think they make great writers, as an example. And the reason why is because they always include unnecessary words and paragraphs because essentially it's pain free. Now, if you're a writer, and as an example, I do write some blogs and stuff, because I suffer while writing fundamentally. And every single word takes a lot of effort. I need to rethink sentences. I will try to only write things where the value per word or sentence is higher than if I wasn't suffering, because otherwise I wouldn't bring myself to do it, right? And I think like with AI, that's a little bit like I think the dilemma. Will they find a way to make this work? I don't know.
Oh no, that's a great observation. I thank you for that. It's brilliant. So the economy of suffering. Now the thing that pops into my head is we can enforce it, at least when it comes to
Cool.
software. Uh,
Mhm.
for example, one thing I've noticed when I'm teaching TDD and leading teams, and the thing that I'm kind of, okay, pay attention, this is a canary in a mine shaft. As you're incrementally growing your software, if you start noticing that your tests are slowing down, this is a pain point, even if it's easy to write those tests. Um, the moment, because I insist on like running all tests. You make a change, you run all tests, and as you keep adding changes, all of a sudden your tests take longer and longer and longer. I don't know where the team can debate where the cutoff line is. Is it in seconds, minutes, hours? Don't care. But there comes a point where you say, okay, this is too much. It's just like, and then people get discouraged. I've seen that in real life. But people say, you know what, like, I'm not writing any more tests because now we are compromising our CI pipeline, and and so it's terrible because now they kind of capitulate. It's like I'm throwing the towel in, no more tests, just going to keep adding code. And so I'm thinking if we set or calibrate the AI to say, this is your pain point. If when you run tests, if it takes longer than this, that means you need to go back and rethink your approach because now you're going down slippery slope. When it comes to writing, that's another issue. As a matter of fact, it's funny. At one point, when I was consulting at a large company, and it was a big buzz, TDD, TDD, and then people from all over the company started coming to me and say, Alex, what is this TDD? Like, really, I created a course for them where I created a framework for writers, TDD, where you write tests, like what your document should contain, and you run the test if it fails. So even you can implement automation. Uh, you know, the change in this document must make this test pass. Right? So they got it. The failure first approach is counterintuitive, but it's very good from the economic side. So maybe that would be a constraint to be placed on. Another constraint I started experimenting with is patient testing. Because people are complaining, yeah, okay, you write a test, it makes it pass, but God knows what else it wrote. And I'm like, yeah, easy to discover. Just run mutation testing and see how many surviving mutants, and tell the agent or the agents, get rid of these mutants, figure it out. You know, that could be another pain point for them. So I don't know, I'm just kind of hypothesizing there. Yeah,
Whatever. And you say, hey, try to minimize it. So if an approach makes it 3 as opposed to 4, choose 3. Great, right? Works really well. In a lot of cases, not that clear cut. Now, once again, let's imagine that an AI was able to write any kind of software in any kind of use case consumed by other AIs. This whole problem wouldn't exist. I don't think we're nowhere near today. Whether we will be tomorrow,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but again, like you say, all
Mhm.
these considerations apply for evergreen systems. But if we are indeed moving into more
Mhm.
like a,
Sure.
disposable, just whip it up
Mhm.
on the fly,
Sure.
and just
Yeah.
and Microsoft or somebody long time ago uh, coined this phrase "cattle, not pets." I don't know if you heard of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. 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 Agree.
So traditionally you craft something and now it's your pet. You give it a name and you like it, and then when
Mhm.
people say, okay, let's get rid of this, like, no, 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 it's my. Um,
Uh-huh.
but code is at this point we treat it more as a liability, not as an asset.
Mhm.
Like you say, if you can get away without writing a line of code, then that's the best. That's the best. You only write when you ran out of all other options. Okay, I need to roll up my sleeves, write some code. But now with AI, I don't know how things are going to play out. So it's still early days, but we can still discuss and talk about this thing, right? Oh yeah, yeah, Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, a couple of things I want to mention. One is this current situation, I don't want to over dramatize, but really reminds me, because I'm an old timer, back in 1999, it was a similar gold rush. Everybody and the dog was into e commerce and pumping, and then there was a big crash. Now, and a lot of companies went under. The company startup I was working for went under. Okay, that did not kill the internet nor the e-commerce. It was just the bubble was more about the hype and investors than about the technology. I think same thing easily apply here. Yes, we may see the bubble burst and all, all these millions of eager, gold rush just goes under, but the technology will survive, and then we will see the next wave, whatever it is. Right now, I think we cannot. Same as with the dot-com bust. Nobody could predict what the next wave. Nobody could have predicted the big tech and all that. I don't think we can predict what AI is going to shape is going to take after the crash. It's going to because we tend to drag as humans drag any new thing down to our level of what we are familiar with. For example, one example I like to use when they uh, invented the steam engine. The first application was to drill the ground, dig deep holes. Then somebody realized, oh, I can put that on a cart and this a locomotive. Right? Then when that was a big success, somebody said, why don't we do the same on the boats? So they put the steam engine on the boats. But the first iteration was the engine was rowing the boat using oars, which was ridiculous. So you needed a breakthrough that somebody come up with the idea of a propeller, right? So I think same thing is here. We are dragging AI into the already established processes and how we do things, and it's like fitting the square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. Somebody will have to come up with a brand new angle, and that will take off. We don't know what that angle is. Some genius will figure it out. That's kind of my yeah. Yeah, yeah. sure, for sure. No, absolutely. Because there was a period when I was young that was called the ice age of AI. It got frozen and nothing was moving. Uh, the early days of there was a symbolic AI and there was neural networks, but I guess we had to reach this level of blast radius and processing power to see it, but and also to put the language, um, and so some studies, and I cannot quote that, maybe I'm wrong, but some studies shown that, for example, children when they're growing up, they cannot grasp logic until they grasp language. So it's not yet, so that's an interesting thing because now we see the technology that has pretty good grasp on language, which gives a hope that it can also master logic. And mastering logic is a big deal, is a phenomenally big deal. And there's about 350 shades of logic. And I think LLMs had pretty good grasp on that. So that's very promising. Now, I just don't want to keep you too long, but one last thing I want to mention is I worked at a large financial institution where I was collaborating with the chief operating officer. And he told me, he opened my eyes to one thing. He says, okay, we use these software as a service packages, whatever it is, to automate our business. But I personally, I can tell you that this feels like a straitjacket. This is very harmful to us because the way this system is built is phenomenally rigid, and we are suffering and we are losing so many opportunities because we now have to comply to how the software is pushing us. So I think the silver lining with AI is maybe it opens the possibility for the CEO to stop being driven by big tech, the big daddy who is telling you this is going to do your job. Because business operations is largely phenomenally diverse, phenomenally complex. There's many edge cases that shove out the door because the software cannot take it. I think it has an opportunity to enable those organizations to cover these and fully automate rather than, he says, I'm losing so many opportunities, we're losing so much money of this idiotic. And yet, without it, we will have to quadruple, 10 times more workforce if we were going to do man. So this is, I see the gap that hopefully, yeah, 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 yeah. But you walk into such organizations, and I consulted with you, Mark, and what you basically see behind the scenes, if you gain their trust and show, you just see a copious pile of spreadsheets, and they're running their business on those Mickey Mouse linked spreadsheets. They're very brittle. They're very error prone. Why? Because I remember talking to one of these big C level people and say, anytime I go to IT and ask them to something, they always tell me P in this cup, P in that cup. It's just like talk to the hand. They are frustrated and they have no recourse. They now resort to these Mickey Mouse spreadsheets, which are cobbled up again, not by professionals. Somebody's nephew went in and showed them a few formulas, and that is, I think, their pain point that they are. Mhm. exactly. And you know, you're right. Even when they talk to, like, they hire me and they say, okay, Alex, we need your help. This is falling apart. And then I'm, okay, sure, let's work on automating this. They basically want me to slavishly mimic and mirror the spreadsheets. And it's very hard to convince them, no, there's a better way. But the people gravitate towards familiar, well-trodden path. They said, no, 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 just take all these spreadsheets and exactly how we're doing. I'm like, this is so wasteful. You know, so you're right. It's a logistic, I don't know. It is transformative problem, and like I said, it all hinges on trust and a little bit of the disruptive energy if they can stomach, depending on who you're working with. You need to convince them that okay, there's going to be a little bit of chaotic energy around here, but don't worry, you're in good hands. That's a selling point. That's hard to sell. Okay, I think I took already too much of your time, Michele. Really, really appreciate your point of view, and I will stop the recording now, and maybe we can continue sometime later if you have some time. It will be awesome. Great conversation. Okay, so have a good evening, and we'll chat soon. Cheers. Thank. Bye. Ciao, Michele.